Many times you find me and the old man passed out on the thing.
No, probably not. That is a comfortable couch. First of all, let's give Brandon a real big hand and his family. Thank you, Brandon. And we're not saying go, Brandon.
Hey, every time somebody says the night show, let's go me.
Let's go you. Yeah. Well, I have been agonizing about this speech for quite a few weeks. Part of the reason for that agonization is that I have, for the past probably about 2 years or so, kind of taken a political sabbatical. Every once in a while, I'll see something that kind of catches my attention in the news, but then it always devolves down to Trump this, Trump that, and I am so sick and tired of the stupidity that's out there. And at some point in time, you know, you just think, okay, would somebody pull their head out of the sand and really take a look around, see what's really going on? Instead of all this farcical, fantastical kind of garbage that's going on. And so I've pretty much the last time I spoke, I was talking about this new party, the United America Party. Mm-hmm. And I had, me and another guy, we came from another party that when I retired from the Marine Corps, let me start this way. When I retired from the Marine Corps, it took me about 6 months to discover what I considered the betrayal of my service to my country by my government. And it was a revealing time. Up until this point in time, I pretty much considered myself to be a Republican. And what changed me, I'll try to make a long story short. How many of you know or have heard of Chief Justice Roy Moore? The Ten Commandments judge. Okay. So that happened, started happening in 2003. James Dobson had the citizen alert thing going on. And I got notice that there was a new party called the Constitution Party that was supporting Chief Justice Roy Moore. Well, I started looking at what was happening with Chief Justice Roy Moore, and this is what really alerted me to the fact that it was our complete government. Chief Justice Roy Moore was being prosecuted for being a judge, a Supreme Court, Alabama Supreme Court judge, who refused to take the Ten Commandments monument out of the courthouse. Now bear in mind, Chief Justice Roy Moore was elected by the state, right? He was an Alabama Supreme Court Justice. And so I'm taking a look at this, and one of the reasons why I joined the Marine Corps was to protect my religious liberty, my First Amendment rights. How many of you know what those First Amendment rights say? Yes, Brayden.
Oh, you want me to say it?
Of course.
The Congress shall make no law,
Prohibiting
freedom of speech, freedom of religion, or the
free exercise thereof.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It does go on more about the press and that sort of thing. But here's the thing. The federal government was getting involved with prosecuting this Chief Justice from Alabama for saying, I'm not removing those 10 Commandments. You know who prosecuted that case? Anybody? There was was his name Ken Starr? Yeah? Okay. Do you know what his role was at that point as prosecutor? Why he was prosecuting the case? He was elected as the Attorney General for the state of Alabama. He was elected as a staunch, conservative Republican, prosecuting Chief Justice Roy Moore. Do you know who was the governor of Alabama at that time? I can't, for some reason his name goes, but again, he was elected as a staunch Republican governor. Do you know who was president at that time? 2003. George W. Bush. Another conservative Republican. I retired from the Marine Corps in May of 2003. 6 months later, I see that Chief Justice Roy Moore is being prosecuted. Who were the prosecutors? All Republicans. There was one Democrat in the process. He was the judge. One Democrat judge in the process. And in that moment, I discovered it didn't matter whether it was Republican or Democrat. I was actually filling out all the, my dad could attest to this, we were living with him at this moment in Greenville, and a newspaper article came out. I didn't have a job at this moment. I'm like, hey, I might as well run for office. And I filled it, I got all the paperwork, got all the signatures I needed to run in various offices within the Republican Party in the county of Bond County. And when I discovered this, I took those papers and I went to my Republican County chairman. I said, I'm no longer a Republican. I tore those papers up and I joined the Constitution Party, a third party. And this was a third party. This was a party that espoused all my beliefs. And my dad thought I was absolutely out of my mind joining a third party. And he's like, what are you doing? Well, when he finally understood what I was doing and not understanding the why, he was like, oh, it makes sense. So, went through the whole process. 17 years later, I said that I used to say the Constitution Party was the last great political hope for this country. And, but then discovered that corruption got a hold of it even there. And so from that period of time, I'm like, okay, what's my job? What am I supposed to be doing here? And so me and another guy that we both kind of felt the same way, we decided our mission and our objective was not over. We're going to start a new party. And we called it the United America Party. At the premise of this new party was going to be, and we had the three pillars of honesty, integrity, and accountability. Now, most people talk about the first two words, accountability and, well, not accountability, honesty and integrity, right? But how many people want to be held accountable? Anybody here want to be held accountable? What? Okay, there's one. Okay, there's another. Why don't we want to be held accountable?
In case we mess up.
In case we mess up. Well, you know, we're all human beings. But why are we suffering in this country today? Who is holding our elected representatives accountable?
Nobody.
Now, I want to thank Annie. Do you go by Annie? I want to thank her because she's got some cool things that she's talking about accountability, the way to be able to get accountable measures taking place at the polls and that sort of thing. I think that's really, we're going to keep talking. Who should be holding our elected representatives accountable? Whose job is that? The voters? Yeah, that's one way of doing it. But what do we get caught up in?
Party line.
Oh, party lines? I can't vote for the lesser of two evils. Well, wait a minute. Maybe, yeah, I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils. But isn't that still voting in evil?
Mm-hmm.
You know what John Quincy Adams had to say? I'm going to vote this for you. I know what I paraphrase it. John Quincy Adams says this: always vote for principle, though you may vote alone. And you may cherish the sweetest reflection that your vote is never lost. But what does everybody want you to believe? If you vote for this guy or if you vote for that guy, you're wasting your vote. I dare say that the only wasted vote is a vote for somebody who does not represent your values. That, my friend, is a wasted, in fact, it's worse than a wasted vote.
The traitor's vote.
To yourself and to everyone else, yes. You're voting against your own principles. How does that make sense? But yet, we are so inundated with these. It's only the Republican and Democrats. There's only two parties out there. That's all you got. Well, that's why I left the two-party system and never looked back. I mentioned this to a couple of people about the movie called The Valkyrie. I never knew what Valkyrie was. Anybody ever seen the movie Valkyrie? It's about Nazi Germany. It's about when Hitler was in power and they wanted to take Hitler out. There was this special thing that was supposed to happen to prevent some certain things called Valkyrie. It was Operation Valkyrie. And they were going to use that to get access to Hitler and to assassinate him. It was a failed attempt. How many people believe that we can reform the Republican and Democrats parties? I've been asked multiple times, and I've even had this story earlier. Randy, just come on back to the Republican Party and help me reform from within.
I think you can if you get precinct committeemen. I think that right now, the reason the GOP party is so bad is because they limit who can join the party. And so you have, I think, become a precinct committeeman. If you, like in our county, instead of having 1/3 of the positions filled, if we have 120 positions filled, then we own that party.
And I don't disagree, but do you know why they don't care to not have precinct committee people?
Oh,
It seems like it'd be powerful, right? But why don't they want them?
Because they don't want to have to be accountable to their vote.
Number one. Number two, and this is a big one. Do you know that the chairman can cast the vote for any vacancy in the precinct committeeman's role?
That's the only one. It took 8 months for me to become a precinct.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the county chairman has no compunction to fill that vacancy. Because why? I get to cast that vote. Did you all know that? There is no compunction to fill vacancies. Because they get to cast that vote. So, when you start having some of this understanding about these various things, and part of my thinking was, and Raylan says, hey, look, if you're going to be speaking, let's talk about how we can fix things. How can we fix things? And I'm going to say, I appreciate you running for local office, because that's where I'm going to really focus and harp about, and is that in the United Party, America Party, we were talking about one main thing, and it's what we called county by county. Start electing people within the local office. And so many times, why does third parties have such a bad reputation? It's because you get all these clowns, and I call them clowns. It's just people who should not be there because they do such farcical things. I mean, one of the most in-your-face, how many of you remember, did anybody see the debates, the third-party debates that were ongoing for the presidential election? And Man, there was this one guy, oh, I can't think what he called himself, but he had a boot on his head. And I don't even, it was
Vermin Supreme.
what is it?
Vermin Supreme.
Vermin Supreme. Yeah.
I forgot his running mate.
What?
You really want me to say his running mate?
What?
These nuts.
I'm telling you, why would somebody do that to cast shame upon your party and everything that you're doing? It's so farcical. And it's why a lot of times all these third parties and stuff get these bad names, because we don't focus our attention on training people, number one. Two, getting people in offices where they can win. See, here's the thing. You say third parties can't win. And where do we get some of this mantra part of it? How many of you remember the election during, forgot what year it was, but Ross Perot ran. Okay?
I voted for him.
Well, if Ross Perot, a billionaire, can't win, you surely can't win. Right? That's what we hear. That's what we get compared to. But how many of you know the situation and the circumstances that happened? Okay, first of all, let's go back a little bit in history. You know that Ross Perot had businesses in other countries, right? How many of you know that some of his employees were held captive and by terrorists, and Ross Perot's like, hey, United States, we got to help these people. We got to get them back. We got to free them. They're being held hostage, right? Guess what kind of response he was getting? Pretty much nothing. So do you know what he did? He put a force together, invaded the country, and got his own people back. This is a man that's like, a man's man. He's like, went to the government, tried to do what was right, do it the right way, right? They wouldn't do it, so what did he do? Take matters in my own hands, I'm getting my people back. He had the money, he put a force together, and went and got his people back. That's the kind of man that just right? So now, here's a guy that's running for president, and his polls were exceeding that of Clinton's. Exceeding them. He could have won. Uh-oh, wait, what happened? Does anybody know?
He dropped out of the race.
Do you know why?
No.
Because he was being threatened with exposure of his daughter who was going to get married. Somebody says, I've got nude photos, and if you keep running, I'm going to release them to the press. I'm going to release them to the internet. I'm going to let them out all over the place. So as not to embarrass his daughter, he drops out of the race. And then, what happened?
He got back in the race.
A month later, he gets back in the race, but now he can't get the votes. He can't get back to where he was. Now, here's a man that isn't afraid to go get his people from another country. And you're going to tell me that dude couldn't have put together an army of private investigators, found a guy who had the pictures of his daughter, and says, go ahead, try it. You will not live to see the day. Are you going to tell me that's the oh, okay, you got me. I don't want to embarrass my daughter, so let's drop out of the race. And then 30 days later says, oh, I'm going to get back into the race. Well, it's already toast. It's already toast. Or was it possibly something else? I mean, how do you threaten a guy, a billionaire, that has the guts to go free his people from another country? How are you going to threaten a guy like that?
No more government contracts.
No more government contracts. We're going to really do some other things, you know. So when I talk about if Ross Perot can't win, how can you think you can win? Well, guess what? I'm not going no intention. I ran for governor once. That was an eye-opening learning experience. And I learned a lot, and I'm able to, because of that, help other people to run, and that sort of thing, to understand the process that's behind that. But more importantly, and we just now moved to a new place. We live in a village where our presence increased the population by 1%. And the very first thing, even before we got there and moved there, we went to their village town hall meeting and met the people there. And so my next process is I'm going to run for a village committee person. I believe, why do I think this? Because number one, it's not going to cost me $1 million. Number two, I believe that I can make a difference in my community. Number three, it gives me credibility when I win. You know how many people run races that just come out of the woodwork and say, yeah, I believe. How many of you remember the elections of 2010? And all of the constitutionally sound people who were running? Bachmann, I don't remember, Michelle Bachmann. I remember her. I will stand on the Constitution when all others fail. How about the Colonel West? Alan West, yeah. Okay? I can take you down the line, every single one of those candidates, and point to you their unconstitutional voting. And I'm sure that's what wore on most of their minds. They thought they could go in there and stand. But what happened? Where did they go? Why aren't they still there? When you sell what, and Ray Lynn can certainly, because of her connection with the Ron Paul situation, how many of you watched the presidential race where the Republicans denied his ability? Blatantly in your face! How is it possible that the whole assembly didn't rise up and say this is wrong? Folks, I appreciate the fact that Darren Bailey is running and has the opportunity that he has. I certainly appreciate that, and he's gone a lot farther than most of us probably would have believed he would have made it. And maybe by the grace of God, he will win. How much support is that guy going to get in that governor's office? By his own party.
His own parties are our worst enemy right now.
So even though he's there, hopefully he can do something for us. And sometimes I think it's, and I brought this, I've always felt like my job is to put my whole finger in the hole of the dam until somebody can fix the dam. To hold the tide back from us just completely devolving into utter chaos. And so how do we win this back? Well, we're not going to win it at the top races. Just not. Why? Does anybody know who's in control of the government right now? I'm going to tell you, it started, and I had this conversation earlier about what happened in 1913. 1913, the passing of the 16th Amendment, the passing of the 17th Amendment, and in December of 1913, what was it? The Federal Reserve Act was passed. Now, when you put those three things together, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, put them together, figure out why they fit so neatly together. Three pieces of the puzzle, 1913, why that happened. And guess how many of the banking cartel are actually American banks? At least 5 of the banks are European. And who manages our economy?
Soros,
Federal Reserve.
deep state.
Foreign countries are governing our economy. these parties.
Certainly not us.
What finger do you think they have on any of this? What kind of control do you think they're going to have if we went through a convention of states, which there's constitutionally no such thing? It's a constitutional convention, not a convention. Show me where it says it's a convention of states. That's the first. Okay, I almost got started. I do have a speech out there about it. Raylan can tell you, I did it in New Boston. But the point is, these are controlling factors. They don't care about you little itty bitty people down here. They only care about the big fingers that they can punch up here. So what races do you think we can win? There's a phrase that says all politics is local. No, it's not. You got local races, you got state races, you got federal races, and there's this whole global thing, even though we don't have quote unquote global politicians. Well, our federal politicians are pretty much the global politicians, right? If we are going to have a hope to take our country back, we need to start down here. We need to start creating the foundation from which we can launch an offensive. As long as we focus on up here where somebody else has the control, what difference are we really going to make? Seriously. Oh, I know these little races down, my little running for village, not going to be all that sexy. It's not going to be all that popular. It's not going to be all that, oh, yeah, no. Probably never hear about me. That's okay. I'm going to make a difference in my community. And guess what? When I ran for U.S. Senate, and people was like, Randy, what if you won? Who are you going to coalesce with? Who are you going to work together? I said, look, I got one mission. I know the Constitution, and I'm going to challenge the other 99 to stand up for the Constitution too. I guess I'm going to have to teach them a little bit about the Constitution that they made an oath to support and defend. Okay, that was a grandiose statement. But I'd been like Ron Paul got to be known as the Dr. No. I've been no. But I tell you what, I really don't need this microphone all that much, do I? They'd heard me. But the thing is, who has the control? Who has the control at the top? So Annie, I'm telling you, I love what you had to say. The problem with just one focus, and that's with the GOP. Don't get me wrong, I love what you're doing. But somebody's going to start putting the finger down on this. And so I am going to challenge us as folk that are interested with the LiberTEA Fest, that we start focusing people to run for local races. How many races within our counties don't have a challenger? Or may even have to have somebody appointed to fill that vacancy, right? So there are so many races throughout this state. I forgot what the percentage is that they don't have candidates running in that race. Guess what? All you got to do is show up. Get one signature. One signature. Guess what? I'm running for this race. I had a friend who, down in Herron, Illinois, in whatever county and district that is, the guy that was supposed to run didn't get enough signatures, so he didn't qualify for the primary. And my friend Dale goes there and says, hey, I'm running for that race. I'm running as a third-party candidate. Would you guys, we're singing the same song, right? We're conservatives in that? No, you know what they did? They paid a whole bunch of petitioners to go out and get signatures so that this person could run as an independent and make sure that my buddy Dale wouldn't be able to win. That's what we see across the board. So what we have to do is start where we can start building a foundation. Municipal races. Oh, here's one. How about the school board? Right? Get some folks running for the school board. How much danger is our schools in?
Oh.
And can I just say the crap that they are being taught? We need people that run for the school board. We need people running for these county offices. Run for precinct committeemen. Get all of these things filled here so then we can start getting the credibility of winning these races, of people being able to win races. Then they can't say, hey, you can't win. No, I won. Get people who are credible. And let's support them. And let's start building these coalitions amongst ourselves. The stuff that Dan was telling us about, the reports that we can get, and start holding people's feet to the fire. Well, take that information, start using it, within our precincts, and let people start to know. We got to start, look, if we don't do it, is that what you said? That's why I ran for governor the first time. I'll have to tell you, if not me, then who? And I was the chairman of the party. It was my job to fill in the who, and I couldn't find anybody willing to run for us. And so I said, not me, then who? If not now, when? And so, that, as they say, the rest of this is history. But the point is, if not us, who? Who is going to take the leadership? Who's going to be, in the Marine Corps, the one thing, I thank God every day that this one thing I learned. If nobody's following you, you're only out for a walk. In other words, we all have something that we need to lead. Leaders and people following you. We need to set examples about how to do these things. One of my problems, and this was the biggest critique of me running for U.S. Senate, running for governor, oh, Randy, you don't have any experience. Yeah, but I said, but look at all the people that have the experience that's destroying our country. How's that experience working out for us? But the point is, and they had a legitimate thing, I had no credibility. What are we doing to build credibility? That's where I'm starting in my own backyard. I'm going to start building credibility. Start showing how this works and how we can focus and how we can help people and how this whole thing operates. So that once I start getting this done and I find other people just like me that I want to help and support, guess what? Then we reach out to the next county and we start focusing our attention that way. And the next one. And the next one. That's how we do it. Folks, we've got to start thinking, granted, not all politics is local, but guess where the most influence is that you have, that you can do, is right locally. Let me see if I think that's pretty much my final point. I did write something down. I'll kind of end with this. The last couple of days, I was kind of like I just needed to put the brain on pause, so I wanted to watch a little TV, as it were. And I went through Netflix looking for something that piqued my interest. And I came across the UFO documentary stuff. And what's so interesting about that is that there is a cover-up conspiracy. Whether you believe in UFOs or not is not the point here. The point is that they have documented proof that their government has known and done investigations and other things that they weren't letting anybody else know. And I had this mantra that I saw in a movie. Actually, I think it was the conspiracy theory movie. Just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get me. Folks, there is a conspiracy to tell you that you can't do this. That voting for a third party is just a wasted vote. All of this mantra to keep you entrapped in this two-party system that's leading this country straight to the pits of hell. There is a conspiracy here to keep us down. How do we fight this conspiracy?
Truth.
Truth. Have our resources. Be armed with the truth. Be able to, you know, what does Paul say about the truth in the Bible? I have one. It's lead lined. Just in case the gamma rays.
Okay,
It
hold,
protects the gamma
Brandon,
rays,
come
too.
back. I didn't get that on
Lead lined
video.
tinfoil hat.
You're gonna make me do it again.
You know what? I should have brought it. Anyway, there is a conspiracy that is trying to keep us from having the courage to stand on the truth. If we stand up, and what do they tell us? Randy, you're crazy. Well, maybe I am. But I try to make crazy look good. That didn't work. Anyway, the point is that we need to work together, and it's one of the things, like I said, I've taken about a 2-year sabbatical. That's almost better.
I couldn't quite get it right.
You got a little point back there. It's just,
Well, that's why I'm kind
you
You didn't mention aliens.
the aliens. Yeah. So here's what I'm going. Like I said, 2 years sabbatical, but I'm going to start getting involved in some things a little bit more slowly than I did at the outset of things. But I'm going to suggest that, there is a part of me that wars against this. But regardless of the party, that we vet the candidates and we support them. We help them. But they've got to prove to us, number one, that they can win. Why run a race just to add more fuel to the fire? You can't win, you can't win. Well, let's put it together so we can win. Let's get the support so we can win. Let's get the candidate trained so we can win. Let's teach them that they need a team to get elected. I don't care how small your county is. If you don't have a team working together to get elected, you don't know how to be a politician. Just got to tell you straight up. You need money, flyers, signs, all of that. You need somebody to manage your funds. You need somebody to manage your events and do all of that together. If it's only you, I get it. I've done that. I've seen it. I've been there. But you need to put together a coalition of people together to do that. That's how we do this, through teamwork, through effort, through training, and through understanding of this process. And let's start building, because guess what happens when you build up from here down? There's another biblical thing. You don't have a foundation, and guess what's going to happen to the house? It collapses. So we got to establish a foundation. We got to establish a foundation of success so that people can have some, you can win. Yes, let's get behind them. We know we have trust in what these people are doing. I'll end with this, that the party, one of the big things we were going to do is start forcing people to contracts. I'm gonna write a contract. This is what I'm gonna do if I'm elected. This is what'll happen if I don't do what I'm elected. How many of you remember the Contract for America? Remember that thing? How long did that last?
Yeah, 2 seconds.
Yeah, a couple of months, I guess, you know, and maybe they acted upon about a quarter to maybe a half of it.
Yeah, it was all hype.
But then it just fell apart, and it's like, okay, what was the consequences? There was none. They got by with feeding us a line of garbage, only acted maybe at the most 50%. If we're gonna, here's what we need to do. Not only do we say, here's the contract, and we support you, violate the contract, and I'm coming after you. You will not get elected again. We will immediately talk about how you failed in your contract and you will not be supported again. How many times have you heard that? Who's holding anybody accountable? Our own parties ought to be holding their people accountable. Do you know, sorry about that, I was going to end, but did you know that both the Republicans and the Democrats in the houses have ethics committees? Accountability committees, right? Do you know that, and you also realize they also got a slush fund. If you get accused of being naughty or whatever, they got a slush fund to make that go away. That's their accountability method. They got accountability committees, but are they holding anybody accountable? No. Have you ever heard of it? I want to see something different. I want to see accountability start playing. I like what Annie does with the Illinois Freedom Alliance. There's some things that are really pretty cool that are about holding people accountable. But that's one of the things we need to start doing. You know, I remember the Second Amendment, folks. Well, let's just, Judy Bartopinka, you remember her? She was not Second Amendment. The Second Amendment people, well, let's just get her elected and then we'll hold her feet to the fire. Right? Yet not. We've got to have intentionality and follow up on exactly what we say we're going to do. Otherwise, oh, they'll endorse us and you don't have to worry about it. They're never going to do anything. But I suggest that we start implementing these changes in our very local place where we have responsibility, where we have our sphere of influence. You know, we've been talking, you are still a talking head, I've been a talking head, done a lot of talking. What have our actions shown? And it's time to let our actions show. And what I can say is, and I'm seriously putting this out there, you know, one of the things that the Apostle Paul said in the New Testament, he says, emulate me. Imitate me. Bear in mind, he didn't say, oh, imitate Christ. Imitate Jesus. Imitate God. What did he say? Imitate me. Why? Because if you imitate me, you're going to be imitating the one I serve. That's what leadership is about. Having the gall and the courage to say, imitate me. And I'm going to say, imitate me. Because I am going to run and hopefully be able to show you what success is and then how we start perpetuating success. And how we perpetuate getting people elected that will be held accountable. All right. Thank you very much. I may have gone over time. God bless you.